All right, well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which is going to be an overview on BIM Collaborate for project managers as such. So I think we've just hit the hour, so we'll kick on. Just as a quick note for those that didn't hear earlier, we will allow a short amount of time for some questions at the end. So feel free to put any questions into the chat or the Q&A panel there on your Zoom at your end, and we'll try and come back at the end and see if we can dive into some of those if there are any. So this webinar is going to be more of a high-level overview of BIM Collaborate specifically within the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform. Okay, we do have some other webinars that we've been doing recently, even in the last few weeks, last couple of months, since the beginning of this year, really, that go into a lot more depth and detail around the Construction Cloud, BIM Collaborate Pro, and around sort of Autodesk Docs, and some more detailed live demonstrations as well. So I'm hoping that the goal of this webinar is to really go through that bit of an overview, just to explain some of the terminology and some of the workflows that can be benefited from within the cloud, specifically with BIM Collaborate. But if you come off the back of this webinar and you see some things some workflows that you like, and then you've got some more questions, please go to our A2K official YouTube channel. There is a webinar playlist there, and there's lots of recent, Construction Cloud and BIM Collaborate focused detailed webinars in there that you can then leverage from and see actual demonstrations and workflows. Okay, all right. So just a quick little bit about A2K before we jump into the actual webinar. For those of you who don't know, we are a technology company primarily focused towards the infrastructure, building, construction, mining, and manufacturing industries. So we play a vital role in helping those industries and the customers like yourselves within those industries, reach your full potential. Some of the things that we deliver in terms around solutions and support, consulting services, education services, things like training, and other events, much like this webinar today. Okay, why A2K? We have a fairly large footprint nowadays within the ANZ and some of the wider regions now, even reaching out globally now. We are partnering with lots of exciting, partners around the world. We are one of the largest Autodesk partners now as well, which is something to be proud of. So we have quite that large footprint, and we can service and bring that a lot of experience to projects and to customers alike. We also we also partner with major softwares. Obviously, Autodesk being our major one, but we also partner with companies like Microsoft and HP for things like hardware and the like as well. And thirdly, our customer commitment, nothing's changed there. If anything, it's only getting better. So we like to think that and strive to exceed client expectations, and our understanding of the challenges within the industry, specifically around the AEC and manufacturing industries and the like, and the solutions and experience that we can then bring to the table can provide a lot of benefit. All right, so let's jump into the webinar. So BIM Collaborate is what we're going to be talking about today. As a starting point, the statement there just to say that BIM Collaborate can empower VDC and project managers to align on and execute design intent and constructability by managing the entire design collaboration coordination workflow in a common data environment. So the key there is the common data environment. We're going to be kind of discussing that in a little bit more detail as we go through today, and some of the ways that you can then pull out some of that, using, people talk about the single source, information coming from the same location and aggregated and combined within the same location so that there's no duplication, rework, effectively wastes of time. Okay, so that's what we're going to kind of be going through today. I thought I just wanted to chat a little bit about, what are some of the challenges that are facing at the industry currently. None of this is really that new, obviously. Everyone's aware of these challenges. But the reason I want to sort of just quickly chuck this up and discuss this is that BIM Collaborate and the tools and workflows that you can leverage and benefit from using BIM Collaborate within the Autodesk Construction Cloud, they really are pinpointing and creating solutions for a lot of these challenges. And the main one being coordination, right? Model coordination, design coordination is something that comes up as a bottleneck time after time. It's nothing new. It's something that has always been an issue and continues to be, obviously, for many projects, large and small, out there. So that's one of the areas that I want to sort of talk on a little bit further today, and how the tools and workflows can start to aid those bottlenecks and those challenges, related around model coordination. Okay, and not just obviously the modeling and sharing models within the cloud space is a big part of it, and quite the exciting part of the tool and the construction cloud. But it's not just models. It goes for all information, all data. So drawings, PDFs, CAD files, any kind of information that is being shared can be aggregated and shared and reviewed and worked on through these workflows, through this one sort of platform. Okay, but clash detection, as I said, is going to be one of the main ones that we want to sort of touch on. And if I have a look at the next slide, I'm often hesitant to sort of put slides like this up, because obviously numbers and these numbers and stats can often move around and change. But I think it's a good one just to kind of highlight that there are real statistics and numbers behind things like model clashes and how they can affect profits and time frames for projects. Okay, so some of the figures on the screen there give you an idea of not only how much it can cost, but then potentially on the flip side, how much doing it well, like clash detection, can save projects. Okay, so with that being said, how does BIM Collaborate, or a tool like BIM Collaborate within the construction cloud, overcome these challenges? One of the main things, like I said, clash detection. What I want to talk about is this concept of automatic clash detection. So I want to talk a little bit about that as we go through today, and how the tool has started to bring that ability to automatically clash models. Okay, so models that are uploaded into particular locations. There are live clash matrices that are sort of running in the background through the construction cloud and accessed through BIM Collaborate, through the tools in BIM Collaborate, and the model coordination side of things module. Okay. And because it is a common data environment, everyone, on the project, when they're sharing to the same location, the information, the models, drawings are generally going to be up to date, because there's no silos. There's no one sharing to different locations that can then get confused and out of date, etc. It's all tracked and versioned as well. That's another area to talk about in terms of how things are versioned. Okay, whether it be models or 2D drawings or the like. Okay, either way is the other area as well. But really, at the end of the day, the automatic clash detection can be done by the entire team. Okay, so that means that project managers, VDC managers and project managers, like many of yourselves perhaps that are on the call, can actually, with these tools, start to jump in and not rely or wait on the authoring parties, the design authors, the Revit modelers, for example, to be doing those and to upload, to bring that information, those reports, clash reports and things like that to the table. You're not kind of waiting for that. With something like BIM Collaborate, you'll start to see that as soon as the models are shared, there's workflows that can be set so that they are automatically clashing, and you can keep an eye on those clashes. And even though you're not even in the Revit, you're not authoring, you're part of the reviewing team, obviously, side of things in the cloud. You can start to see and view those models and review those clashes within the tool. So you can create issues. You can then start to assign those issues out and then track those issues, right? So you're not having to wait for that information to come through from the actual authoring parties. Okay, so that's just a little touch on that. We will talk about that a little bit further in a little while. Okay. The other things to think about is coming back to that concept of a common data environment. So again, can be a little bit of a, maybe like a buzzword or phrase, that's sort of, thrown around a bit. But really, at the end of the day, it is really what the construction cloud, the Autodesk Construction Cloud is aiming for. This CDE, you hear people say CDE, that's what it is, common data environment, sharing that information to a single source, and sharing that information across the modules. So they're not silos anymore. If there's sheets that are uploaded or models that are uploaded, they're accessible through the different modules on that sort of that unified platform. Okay. So talking about that is, this slide's kind of just a bit of a visual demonstration of, or reminder of, what the construction cloud is, basically that unified platform across, the AEC project delivery. So we're not just talking about, the design phase. The intent of this platform, the intent of this tool is for it to flow through and flow across the entire project lifecycle. So into, the building, construction, and then even operation of the building. Okay. Now we don't have all the time in this webinar, so we are going to kind of be pulling it back and sort of talking more in the design sort of phases and stages of the projects and how those workflows and tools can work. But as Autodesk are developing these tools more and more, you'll see a lot of that come through in terms of the life cycle of the project and tools to be able to manage those other other stages of the project. Okay, so I'll just build this slide up here. Okay, so just in terms of the construction cloud evolution, I just wanted to quickly sort of note here, that be confident that Autodesk is definitely continuing to invest in all of these products. So the product portfolio is continuing to expand, and its reach is continuing to expand, as I just said previously. Now, the idea is to build meaningful integrations between all of the products. A lot of it is there already, as you hopefully start to see by the end of this webinar. If you haven't not already seen it, I'm sure a lot of you are somewhat familiar, if not overly familiar, with the workflows and the construction cloud. But hopefully by the end of this, you'll start to see those integrations that are starting to happen, and where they are putting that development time in. Things like carrying out end-to-end workflows across those products as well, having the same information flow through those products, through Autodesk Docs and through the build platform, into the tools and workflows in BIM Collaborate that we're going to look at. Having that same information flow through is critical, obviously, right? So we don't want to be in that silo environment, anymore. The key is to break out of that, and that's what we're starting to find with these tools. Okay. All right, so let's just quickly talk about what is in the products. What are they? This slide, I think, is just helpful. I just want to chat on this for a second. Okay, it's helpful to kind of see, okay, where does sort of BIM Collaborate fit within the wider sort of scheme of tools and offerings that sit within the construction cloud. So the main three kind of offerings that we're kind of talking about here are obviously BIM Collaborate, which we're focusing on, but you've also got BIM Collaborate Pro, and you've also got Autodesk Docs. Okay, so these three offerings kind of sit alongside each other, and depending on where you sit in the scheme of things, where what your role is, where you sit within building design and project deliveries, will depend on where what tools you're going to use. So just to sort of break it down a bit, as you can see there on the screen, Autodesk Docs, if you see the bottom line there, Autodesk Docs is kind of like the platform module, which is basically this idea of this common data environment. So it is for all project team members, and pretty much what it is it's the document storage and cloud, so document and sharing, document control, and then process management and versioning and tracking for all CAD and BIM sort of documents and file types. Okay, everything from 2D PDFs to model files, CAD files that can flow through the Autodesk Docs ecosystem. Okay, Autodesk Docs is available, as it says there, it comes along with the AEC collection, and can also be standalone as well. But for the most part, I would say most customers are accessing Docs now through the AEC collection, and I'm sure a lot of you on the call are probably your company has that AEC collection, I'm sure. So you'll find that you'll have access to at least docs. Okay. When we then start to talk about BIM Collaborate, okay, so the middle line there, BIM Collaborate, is for the project reviewers and consumers. So this is where the project managers, project leads, basically all the reviewing type roles and checking, commissioning type roles come into play with BIM Collaborate. Okay, and this is where we start to get some of those access to the design collaboration and the model coordination within the cloud, okay, which we'll have a look at. And that's when I'm coming back to those clash detection workflows, the automatic clashing and reviewing of those, okay. BIM Collaborate is available as a standalone, but it also includes all of Autodesk docs. So if you get a BIM Collaborate license, you automatically get the docs in there as well, okay. And then the top line, what is BIM Collaborate Pro? So BIM Collaborate Pro is pretty much, you get everything with a BIM Collaborate Pro license, you get everything that you get with BIM Collaborate, but is more for design authors, because the additional thing you get with BIM Collaborate Pro is the co-authoring and work sharing, live sort of work sharing through Revit. Okay, so authoring. So that's mainly designed at the BIM and CAD managers and designers, details drafters that are actually in Revit modeling. They would have a license they would require a license of BIM Collaborate Pro to access that co-authoring and that Revit work sharing, cloud work sharing workflow. Okay, so with BIM Collaborate Pro, with a license of that, you then get it's obviously, as it says, available standalone, but it includes BIM Collaborate features and docs as well. Okay, so that's where it kind of sits. That hopefully gives you a bit more of an idea of kind of the differences. So I guess in short, think of BIM Collaborate Pro on the top there as the main difference being that it includes the authoring. So Revit modeling, work sharing. That's on top of. In this webinar, we are obviously going to, as I said, focus on the workflows and tools that can be leveraged out of BIM Collaborate. And as I said, that will include the Autodesk docs and all of the tools that, and workflows that are included there as well. Okay. All right, I can see some good questions coming through there already, so that's really good. I'll keep going, but we'll definitely touch on some of these questions that I can see that are coming through at the end. Okay, so that's good. All right, this one was just to quickly kind of talk about the connection between not only the teams, but the projects and the businesses with the construction cloud. Okay, so you've got other modules of the construction cloud, like for example takeoff and build, that have other tools in them, but you can see underneath there, under BIM Collaborate, underneath all of them are sort of like the three legacy or primary platform tools there in Autodesk Docs, the Insight and the administration. Okay, so just be aware, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Insight and the administration at the end of this webinar, but just wanted to sort of touch on that to make sure that those are aware, as I said, that not only with BIM Collaborate do you get the features and the workflows of Autodesk Docs, but you also have the ability to review insights, review dashboards and reports for how projects are tracking and how issues are going, and approval workflows and things like that. And that can be customized to a certain extent as well. And in terms of the administration, that side of things is where obviously you can access not only the account administration, but the project specific administrations to do things like permissions, give users permissions and control who can see what and who can view certain things, who can mark up certain, review certain things, who can approve certain things, etc. in the scheme of it all. Okay, so more on that at the end of the webinar, but I just wanted to touch on that now just quickly. So coming back to the question of why BIM Collaborate. So BIM Collaborate gives you the ability to review and coordinate these design projects at the base of it, right? So that's the main thing. As part of the ecosystem, BIM Collaborate allows you to centrally manage that data in that Construction Cloud unified platform. Okay, so if you're a reviewer, if you're not an author but you're a design reviewer and you're managing those workflows of documents getting issued through, models getting checked, getting coordinated, clashed, reporting, etc., you have the ability to have that streamlined through this platform. Okay, you can share feedback and view insights and detect those clashes even on any device. That's the other key thing to note here as well. Okay, so decision makers have the ability to, you don't necessarily have to be in front of a computer. You can get access to the cloud and to a lot of these platforms through mobile devices as well. So there's other workflows there. And again, I would mention that we have done other webinars recently to look out for in terms of, construction cloud and connected workflows, for moving forward into the field, not just from the office. So, working on some of those workflows and using mobile devices and things like that, tools and things like PlanGrid. So for some of you might be familiar with PlanGrid, which is now come into the fold under Autodesk and is a big part of obviously the construction cloud and the mobile working side of the ecosystem. Okay. And then, obviously there's more benefits there. As you can see, I won't read through all of those, but, you can track issues and create versioning and things like that. Okay. All right. So in terms of what you get with BIM Collaborate, as we mentioned, so the docs Autodesk Docs is a big part of it. The sort of like the foundation of it in terms of sharing that information. You can have, as it says there, 50 plus file formats. So we're not just, as I mentioned before, talking about 2D PDF drawings. Okay, it can handle 50 plus formats around sort of CAD files, Revit files, Navisworks files, etc. Okay, so any of those files formats that you're sharing in different projects, and every project can be different. Obviously, you can jump onto some projects and the deliverables change, and you've got to, or not only the deliverables, but what you're receiving, obviously, more to the point, can chop and change. So they can all be managed through this Autodesk Docs sort of document management system. Okay, 2D and 3D versioning and comparison as well. And issues and markups on all of those, many of those file types as well. Okay. Design collaboration is the other big part of it. So when we started to get into like the model side of things and the models that are being shared on the project, you then with the BIM Collaborate access have the ability to set publishing and package reviews and distribute those packages and track those versions and those comparisons and create issues basically if they arise and assign them to members of the project. Okay. You can even share, even going just back to docs and some of those, you can share some of those links and docs out to people outside of the project as well. So in many areas, it doesn't necessarily have to be a member of the project. You can create links for documents and put things like, expiry dates on them and things like that, so that, people with the link outside of the project can view some of those files. Okay, so you have workflows of that as well. And then in terms of the model coordination, as I mentioned, again, you've got all of the clashing options, which we'll go into a bit more detail in a little bit, but grouping those clashes and assigning those coordination issues across the wider project team. Okay, and then everyone can see it. It's all open. It's all transparent within the platform, so that things can be tracked. Okay. So what value does Autodesk BIM Collaborate offer? Okay, I don't want to dwell on this for too long, but again, this is one of those slides just to sort of highlight, what are those benefits? What's that value that you can get out of it? In terms of catching clashes before they hit the field, it can reduce rework, obviously. So that's one of the big things. It also improves the plan to schedule ratio as well. Okay, so timeframes are obviously are affected in a positive manner. Okay, in terms of managers, easy to use and view accurate models, and the aggregation of the models all in one environment, all in one folder, even within the cloud, is a lot easier, way to manage things. Okay, you do have a ability to set up your own and customize your own folder structure, by the way, within the project, within the construction cloud project. Okay, and I can see one of the questions here actually that has caught my eye that's come through is talking about ISO. That's obviously a big discussion at the moment, and always kind of has been. But in terms of setting up folder structures and workflows within this platform? Absolutely, yes, you can. So you can customize it to be however you want, but a typical best practice way that we're starting to find is obviously to set the structures up and the folder structures up per ISO 19650 standards. Okay, so we'll touch on that a bit more later, but you can definitely set it up that way. You have the ability to customize it to your own requirements. Okay. So facilitating, just in terms of talking about these connected workflows, for teams, every team member with the specific tools they need have the ability to access that information and collaborate with it with others in the project in the same location, rather than separate emails going out here and there, uploading on other platforms and things like that. And again, some of those silos come into play. Okay, if you're working through the same unified platform, okay, all of the information becomes a lot more streamlined. Okay, for projects, managing all the project documents in one place to ensure everyone on the team is working from the latest data set. Leverage continuous collaboration to increase efficiencies. Okay, so a big step forward there in terms of getting those efficient timeframes and of managing those documents and data. Okay, and for businesses as a whole, it's helping to streamline organizational improvement and increase innovation to win more profitable work at the end of the day. So that's obviously a big part of it. So these tools are starting to help connect those teams in that manner, so that can be realized. Okay, so in terms of how it all works, as I said, the capabilities and workflows that we want to talk about are the document management. So I'm going to talk a little bit more at the end of this, as I said, about the insights and the doc management control. I've got a few slides that I want to talk around in that area. But those workflows include that document control and versioning and approvals and also transmittals. Okay, so that's another big part of the platform, being able to officially, transmit drawings, get them approved through an official workflow that's agreed upon within the platform, and then tracked and versioned, so that then there's a history. Okay, and for the life of the project. Okay. Design collaboration, as we mentioned, that constructability review and change visualization, and then coordination in terms of the model coordination and quality planning, etc. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. So the next couple I'll just quickly go through. I just included these because it's sort of like a good indication of some of those workflows. Okay, so like I mentioned, you can create a shared folder, and that's typically the best way to do it, to have a common shared folder within the cloud, within the project. Okay, that the design authors and parties are uploading their models to, and that is the key then to this automatic clash detection. So if those files are being continuously uploaded to that common location, and that location doesn't change, it can be set and pathed to a different folder by you, for example, being the managers of the project. But as long as that then is set and agreed upon, and those models are then continuously, week to week, month to month, at those different milestones, so long as those models are uploaded to that same location, that's where that automatic clash really comes into its own, because it's just looking at that one folder, and as new models come in, it's basically updating live on a matrix, which I'll show you like in a sec. It's updating live on a matrix those clashes between the different models and between the different parties. Okay, and you can start to get a really good idea of an insight into it. Okay, creating issues off the back of that is quite easy. You can then issue some of them are non-issues, obviously, and can be ignored and labeled that way, labeled as such, and then others can issues can be created from them and then assigned through the teams and through the workflows for them to be answered, basically. So tracking those changes and then coming back through, and obviously the cycle repeats. So the next slide kind of gives you an example of some of those model workflows that can sort of happen. So this is, again, just be aware that this can be customized. There's lots of different actual templates actually inside the tool. to customize how these workflows work and how these approvals work. So not only this example on the screen is talking about model coordination workflows, but this also applies to document approvals as well. So if you're reviewing PDF drawings, for example, and you're setting up an approval through there, you can set up off the back of different templates like one-step approval workflows, two-step approval workflows, and you can say at what point where does the document go. If it's approved, who does it go to? If it's approved, it goes there. If it's not, it comes back again and it's got to kind of be answered. So it kind of goes twofold. It's through the 2D documentation side of things, but also now through BIM Collaborate, you've got this 3D model coordination side of things as well. So that can then be reviewed. So clashes can be reviewed. You can save images of those areas to highlight, and they can be marked up, and then issues created and assigned to users. Okay, for them to be actioned, basically. Okay, and all of that history is tracked through there. Okay, so if you have a look through this example, I won't go through all this, but the middle line there gives an example of a manager that potentially is uploading models to that automatic clash detection location folder. Okay, the tool then is BIM Collaborate is then reviewing those models and creating those clashes automatically and updating the matrix. The clash matrix, which I'll show you on the next slide. The numbers are there. You can see what the overall numbers are, so you get like a bigger picture, and then you can drill into those specific clashes between those different models, or the different services, for one, is probably a better word. So, between MEP, between structure, between architecture, or between sub-disciplines even as well, depending on obviously how the project is set up. Those clashes can be viewed. And then, obviously there is then an action at the end. Can it be resolved? Yes, no. What direction does it kind of go? So you can kind of set up these workflows. Okay, so enough of that. Let's go to the next slide. So this is an example of, this is basically a screenshot of the construction cloud platform. So you can see here, if I can just get my mouse happening over here, I am in the model coordination area of the platform here at the moment. There's some modules down the side here. There's different tools. Okay, basically when you go to the clashes, all of those models that have been shared. So over here on the right, you can see there is a shared folder coordination location. When that's clicked into, there are settings in there that you can set, okay, in which folder is this looking at? Okay, so in which folder are these models being uploaded to and then being automatically clashed? So that's set there. And once that's set, as long as I said, everyone's uploading to the same location, this matrix here will just continue to update. So you can see, you can get like a wide overview of the project. Okay, you can see down the left hand side here, there's a list of all these are effectively the Revit models. Okay, so you can see there's electrical, fire, plumbing, so there's different disciplines. There's arc down the bottom there. There's a structures there somewhere, it might be a little bit cut off. Sorry, apologies about that with the screenshot, but basically you've got all of your different service models there, and then across the top you've got then what's clashing with what. So is it you're clashing all, or is it one specific discipline against another? Then what you can do is you can drill into each of these and then start to really review them. In the next slide, if I just go to that one, so this gives you an idea of what you can then start to look like. So as you can see on the screen, you are looking at the models in a 3D model viewer environment. Okay, once you get to this point, so you can actually see the clashes, and this is you as a reviewer. You're not even being part of the authoring side of things, so you're not necessarily in Revit, right? But as the reviewer through BIM Collaborate, okay, and through this access that you get, you can view these models and you can view these clashes in pretty much in real time, as they're not as they're being authored, but as they're being uploaded straight away, that clashes are automatically happening. Okay, put it that way. So you can then drill into these clashes. You can, if it's just a matter of reviewing them, it might be, or if you want to take it further, you can, as you can see on the bottom here, you can create issues. Okay, so you can pick certain clashes, you can create views, you can mark them up, you can create an issue, and then you can date it and assign it to particular project members for action. Okay, and then that's all then tracked back through the design, the model coordination module. Okay, through the histories there. So after the create. Also, just to note there, like I said, there are non-issues obviously as well, so they can be labelled. Oftentimes can get wasted, in a lot of those, irrelevant clashes between things that are not really, yes, they're physically sort of touching and clashing, but they're not really obviously a design clash issue as such, for the project. So they can be labeled and grouped as such so that they're pretty much ignored. And then the real ones, important ones that need to be actioned, are then labeled as such and moved forward and resolved, hopefully, okay, ahead of time as well. Okay. All right. So that is pretty much just a bit of an overview there of the model coordination and the automatic clash detection. As I said, guys, if this is something that you want to see more of, we do have some recent webinars that we've gone into live sort of demonstrations of this. So please review our channel to get a good, more detailed sort of overview and demonstration of how these kind of work. Okay. What I want to do now is through the next, I just want to talk now and come back a step and talk about Autodesk Docs. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier in the piece, as part of this, as part of this tool, as part of this offering, with a BIM Collaborate license, you do get access to all the benefits of Autodesk Docs underlying under the bottom of the platform here. Okay. So what is Autodesk Docs for those of you that are kind of not as familiar or aware of what it is? Pretty much it is another module that sits within the project that you can access all of the files that are basically shared. So think of it like your document sharing portal, basically. Okay. So anything to do with the project and any files that are shared can flow through Autodesk Docs here. So the main items, the main areas that you'll be using it for is document control, document versioning, as we mentioned, and then document approvals. Okay. So you can set up and customize how this all works. Okay. So if we go to the next slide, so first of all, just to talk a little bit further about document control, a single repository aiding in the publishing of documents. Okay, documents can be uploaded, and then you can create markups and publish those markups, so that then people potentially have to review those and approve or reject. Okay. You can set up folder permissions as well. So that's another important piece of the puzzle here as well. Obviously, you want to have some permissioning there so that the right people are getting access to the right files, and the right people are able to, not just review, but edit or mark up those files, okay, and effectively adjust those. And then versioning, you have the ability to have that versioning. Well, as a matter of fact, it's, automatic versioning will happen as those new files are published. So it's kind of part of the background workflow. So it's kind of happening automatically in terms of that history and that tracking. Okay. Document review. So this is where you start to get into, we're talking about, well, these screenshots are sort of showing examples of 2D PDF drawings. Okay. But it's not just for that. As I said, those other 3D file formats that can be uploaded into Autodesk Docs, they can be reviewed and marked up to different extents as well. Okay, but with this example, as you can see, you can review the documents, you can review the versions, you can compare as well. So that's the other big part of the tool. There are some really quick and neat tools to compare, version against another version and see what the changes are really, really quickly. And then, as we mentioned, you can track those changes. And then the workflow. So the big two parts, as you can see there, of the document workflows through Autodesk Docs are the approvals and the transmittals. So coming back to what I was mentioning earlier, the approvals is where you can start to set up. You can set up those custom approval workflows, like I mentioned earlier, 1-step, 2-step. There's a lot of, there's default sort of templates in there that you can sort of build from, and then you can assign them. You can, assign the permissions. Put the, who does it go to? Where do they go if they're approved? Where do they go if they're not approved? And how does it work within the folder structure of the actual project as well in there? And then transmittals, probably nothing too crazy or new with transmittals. Transmittals tools like that have obviously been around for a while, and were there previously to certain extents through BIM 360 and whatnot. But obviously just the ability to officially transmit documents and have that sort of stamped and dated, and as it's flowing through the project, is obviously critical and very important. So it's there. It's a big part of the tool as well. Okay, and then I also just wanted to quickly touch on. So I mentioned earlier about the administration and also the insights part of it as well. So I just want to quickly touch on this. So as part of the tool, as a manager or a project reviewer and project controller, lead, you have the ability to, through the dashboards of the project, you have the ability to get insights into how the project is potentially tracking. Okay, so you've got reports that can be generated and reviewed and issued. You've got dashboards, like an example of the screenshot you're seeing there, dashboards of review risk, project review risk factors. What are the dates of the issues that are going out? What's current, what's not, what's potentially at risk, what's out of date. And this again, to a certain extent, can be customized as well. And you can see on the left-hand side of that screenshot, part of the modules there for the inside as well. You've got project controls and quality control and safety that can come into the picture as well. Okay. All right. I just wanted to finish on this slide again. We've kind of looked at this already, but this, I think, is a good spot to finish because it kind of shows the bigger picture of the Autodesk Construction Cloud and where kind of BIM Collaborate sort of sits within it. Okay, so it is that that license of BIM Collaborate gives you those access to those tools that we've just focused on. But I think the highlights are really specifically, as well as getting access to the docs and the document control, the highlights are really the design collaboration and the coordination. So being able to see those clashes and review those as, not even being part of the authoring team, being able to see those almost in real time, as the models are being, uploaded, and not having to wait for that information to come through from those parties. As long as the models are being uploaded and that, that process is being managed and people are following through, you can start to leverage that information and as it through and save a lot of time. Okay, so hopefully, guys, that gives a bit of a, as I said, an overview and a bit more of an idea for those of you that maybe were not as familiar, a bit more of an idea of where it kind of sits and what you can start to do and leverage with these tools. Okay, obviously, if you've got more questions, I'll try and review the questions quickly now. I can see there's just a few that perhaps have come through. I'll try and review some of them quickly now. But if you do have more questions and we don't get to them today, because I am conscious of the time, please feel free to reach out. I'll give some contact details in a sec. But please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to come back and we can take this offline and even do some further demonstrations of the tool and how it could work for you and your projects and your business as well. Okay, so let me just have a look at the question panel. Okay, so there's a couple in there. So one of them was about the ISO 19650. So it was, how easy is it to apply ISO 19650 workflows with sustainability codes? Just not simple versions. Okay, look, it is fully customizable. Well, it is customizable to an extent where you can start to apply some of those ISO 19650 standards. Okay, in terms of suitability codes, yes, those workflows are a big part of the tool. Okay, that is something that we are even looking at further as we speak, to be honest. So that could even be something that we could take offline and even chat further on that one. But I guess as a top level, be confident that you can set up the structure within there so that it is following that 19650 standard, and that can be customized to suit that, basically. And we've even got some example projects that we've been working on in-house that shows that as well. So that's another thing that we can do. We could start to, and we've been branching it out to certain customers as well already. Okay, so it's something that we are definitely working on. The question here from Chris. Hi, Chris. So can the auto clash detection give a graphical feedback in the model authoring tool in real time, i.e. something similar to the red squiggly line in MS Word when we spell something wrong? Okay, that's a good question. There are some, it's almost like a switchback sort of thing. In terms of it being in real time, I'm not 100% on that, but I do know that there are some add-ons in there that do allow you to connect to a certain extent back to the Revit model. Let me go and yeah, that's something that we're looking at as well. I believe I saw some demonstrations on that just recently. I think that's actually an area that is being developed even further, to be honest. But yeah, there is some tools. There's a bit of a vague answer, but there is some tools in that does allow you to kind of switch it back or give feedback back. Even with things like markups and whatnot, they can sort of be pushed back into the model to certain extents as well. Okay. Some fairly long questions here. Just bear with me, guys. Recording. Okay, so there's a question there from Gene, is Gene, I believe, in terms of the transmittal systems. There's probably a little bit to unpack there in terms of, does Autodesk Docs allow, does it support transmittal features for tracking and recording of all of the project progress, contract administration as well? I guess the short answer is yes, there are ways that you can set up those transmittals to track some of that stuff. But I think that, again, that's probably something that we would need to take offline and maybe chat a bit further, get a bit more detail about what the actual requirements are. So yeah, so I guess in short, yes, there are some workflows that with that transmittal feature that can answer that, but it probably just needs a bit more detail as to what exactly are the requirements for a specific project. So can you track costs, earned value, etc., for each area of the design process in the project reporting insights? I believe you can to a certain extent. Again, that's probably something that we can take offline and test. I know some of the team have also been testing that out as well in terms of tracking costs. Okay, because also, as I saw at the end there's other areas like the quality control and safety control that comes into play as well. So the cost management is another portion. I probably would have to say that the cost side of things and cost, reporting and tracking, reviewing, etc., that is an area that is still to be a little bit developed, I would have to say, within the cloud, within the construction cloud platform. So yes, there is modules there that cover that side of things, but in my experience, it's not heavily being used as yet. It is being adopted in some places, but there is some development happening in that area. So hopefully that kind of, I guess, at least goes a way to answer some of those questions, guys. Obviously, if you've got more or you want, to get some more discussion around some of those questions, as I said, please feel free to reach out. One of the other questions that we get as well is, what is the limitation of the construction cloud in terms of, files, or not even files that can be uploaded and sizes, or even just how many projects can be created within there? The answer is, once you've got that license and you're setting up, you're an administrator and you're setting up projects, there is no limit. So, you can set up as many projects as you like. There can be as many files set up. They're obviously within those file format, but as we said, there's 50 plus file formats that are recognized, but there essentially is no limit to the size and the number of files that can be uploaded. So that's another question that often gets asked. I thought I'd just mention that as well. All right, I think that's it for the question. I think looking at the time, we probably need to stop it there. So with that, guys, I'll just say, thanks very much for attending. Hopefully you were able to get at least a little bit out of that today. Firstly, if you're interested in some of these webinars and events in the future, that's the site to visit, atktechnologies.com.au/events, so you can see what's coming up. And then in terms of reaching back out, as I said, that's the best email, info@atktechnologies.com.au. If you do have further questions or you want to have a further discussion and even perhaps a demonstration of some of these tools we've been talking about, please reach out. But with that, I'll say thank you very much, guys, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.